employer mandate portion of the massive health care overhaul. For more on how this might impact business and their employees going forward, Bill George, the Harvard Business School professor and former Medtronic chairman and CEO, joins us this morning from Houston. Bill, great to have you back. Good morning.
Great to be back to you, Carl.
Bill, let's just start out by saying you think delaying the mandate's a good thing, right?
I think so. I think this whole system is so complicated that there are going to be a lot of unintended consequences, and I think it gives employers a little more time. The big issue here is with small business. Large business will continue going the way they're going, providing their own health care insurance. But I think at the small employer level, this is where a lot of disruption is going to take place. Some people trying to keep below that 50-employee limit. Some of them simply can't afford it. It's going to be non-competitive for them. So I think taking more time to get sorted out. But it creates a very odd thing because of the individual mandate going forward on January 1st, 2014. You're going to have kind of an unusual mix. And I think you'll see people trying to opt out, many unwilling to pay the penalty to avoid going into a full-up program.
Yeah, we all are arbitrageurs in our own household when it comes to health care costs. And that does raise the question, the political question to a large degree, Bill, as to whether or not you can have one and not the other if the GOP really senses weakness in the White House, if there are other dominoes to fall.
Well, I think there are going to be other dominoes to fall, not because the GOP can force them, because President Obama is never going to approve any legislative changes during his tenure. But I think you will see a lot of the things fall by their own weight. The whole exchanges, Carl, which is key to the plan, you're going to have trouble getting it up and running. I think the government's really struggling with getting its software up and running. And when it does, there are going to be a lot of issues coming up. And I see further disruptions coming up. And I think there could be further delay on the exchange side. The administration is so committed to individual mandate, I don't think they'll delay that. Their goal primarily is to get people into the system. But, Carol, my big concern is cost. No one's figured out how to pay the $1 trillion added cost. And it could sink us. We can't just keep cutting Medicare and Medicaid reimbursement. I don't know a hospital in the country that's making money on Medicare or Medicaid right now. And that's a non-starter. So we're going to have to find ways to address our nation's health care problems, because as we get more disease care and get sicker as a nation, the costs inexorably rise. And this system is not going to address those issues.
Bill, what's a small business to do here? They're the ones, especially those around that 50-person level, who have some really important decisions to make and not a lot of clarity, especially if you're saying that this delay could go beyond a year.
I think they're going to hold off. I think they're going to have more part-time employment, more contract employment, and they're going to hang back those that don't provide health care now. Those that do will probably continue on. But for the small business, they're going to struggle. They're already struggling economically, and it's not going to help jobs, that's for sure. And that's where a lot of the jobs are created with small business. So I do worry about the job impact of this.
Sure. I guess I mean almost more specifically, what would you recommend to them? Because there are those who argue that by putting this off for a year and the fact that we haven't seen it, for example, in the latest jobs report, not a huge effect here for this size of firm. So what would you, almost as an executive, say to them about now moving forward with their employee payrolls for the next year or so?
Well, that worries me. If they're well above the 50 mark, I think they should move forward and plan on the health care going into effect and just figure out how to absorb the economics of it. Unless they can beat the system, so to speak, which I doubt. For the smaller employers, I'm worried, and I think a lot of them are going to have to scramble to try to stay underneath that 50 limit. But I'd like to see everyone have health care coverage. It's not I'm opposed to it. I'm very much in favor of it. It's a question of how to pay for it. And I think that's the big issue. And I think we're going to have to look for more catastrophic plans with very high deductibles. So particularly the younger employees have only catastrophic coverage. And I'd like to see more flexibility in the system. That's what I would recommend, to try to find insurance companies come up with more flexible plans that allow them not to have a full-up plan for health care. Perhaps they can't afford or people don't really require.
Yeah, no, it's a very real conversation, Bill, for business owners and all Americans going forward. Appreciate your guidance, Bill. Have a great weekend.
Good. Thanks,
Bill
Carl.
George.
Good to be with you, and Kelly, too.